My name is Alina Hayes, and for 38 years I believed there was nothing in this world my son Daniel could say that would ever make me stop loving him. I was wrong about one thing, not about loving him, but about believing love could protect a family from pride, resentment, and manipulation. Sometimes the person you raised with all your heart becomes the person standing across the room from you, asking you to leave. If this story already has your heart racing, welcome. I'm glad you're here at Heartline Narratives. Before we go further, drop a comment and tell me, where are you watching from? Your country, your city. I read your comments, and I always love knowing where these stories reach. Note, this story contains fictional elements for entertainment and educational purposes. Any resemblance to real people, names, or places is purely coincidental. But the lesson behind this story is something every family should remember. Let's continue. I lived in a quiet neighborhood outside Columbus, Ohio, in the same white two-story house where Daniel had grown up. His father, Robert, had built the wooden porch with his own hands before he passed away. Every corner of that house carried a memory. The pencil marks on the kitchen doorframe showed Daniel's height at different ages. The garage still had the basketball hoop he used as a teenager. Even the backyard oak tree had a tire swing that had survived long after Daniel stopped using it. After Robert died, Daniel became the center of my life. He was 34 when he married Vanessa. At first, I welcomed her. Vanessa was confident, polished, and charming. She worked in marketing, dressed beautifully, and always knew exactly what to say when other people were listening. "Mrs. Hayes, Daniel talks about you all the time," she told me at their engagement dinner. I smiled. "Please call me Alina," she smiled back. "Of course." I thought I had gained a daughter. I didn't realize I had gained someone who saw me as competition. The first signs were so small that I dismissed them. Vanessa started suggesting that Daniel spend less time helping me around the house. "You're married now," she would say playfully whenever Daniel fixed something for me. "You have a wife who needs you." Daniel would laugh. "I know, Vanessa." I never complained. When he called me every Sunday, Vanessa eventually began appearing in the background. "You don't need to call your mom every week," she once said. Daniel looked uncomfortable. "She's my mom. And I'm your wife." I pretended not to hear. Then Vanessa started making comments about my house. "You must have a lot of equity here," she said one afternoon. I laughed. "I've never thought much about it." "You should. Houses like this are worth a fortune now." She looked around the living room differently after that, not like a guest, like someone inspecting property. Months passed. Daniel visited less often. Then one Saturday he arrived without warning. His face was tense. Vanessa came behind him. I immediately knew something was wrong. "Mom," Daniel said. I put down the cup I was holding. "What happened?" He looked at Vanessa. She folded her arms. Daniel took a breath. "We think you should consider moving." For a moment, I genuinely thought I had misunderstood him. "Moving where?" "Somewhere smaller." I stared at my son. "This is my home." "I know." "Then why are we discussing it?" Vanessa stepped forward. "Because Daniel has responsibilities now." I looked at her. "What responsibilities?" "Our future." That answer hurt more than I expected. I turned back to Daniel. "Is this what you want?" He didn't answer immediately. That silence told me everything. "Daniel," finally, he whispered. "Yes." Something inside me cracked. I remembered carrying him when he was sick, sitting beside his bed during thunderstorms, and working 2 jobs after his father died so Daniel could finish college without debt. And now my son couldn't even look me in the eyes. Vanessa reached for his hand. He took it. That tiny gesture broke my heart more than his words. I swallowed my tears. "If you want me gone," I said quietly, "then say it yourself." Daniel looked at me. "I think you should leave." I nodded. I didn't argue. I didn't scream. I simply looked at my son, the little boy who once believed I could fix everything, and realized that he had chosen his wife over me. What I didn't know was that this would not be the end of our story. It was only the beginning. Years later, when someone knocked on my door late one rainy evening, I would recognize the voice on the other side immediately. It would be Daniel. And this time, he wouldn't be asking me to leave. He would be begging me to let him come home. The next morning, I woke before sunrise. For a few seconds, I forgot what had happened. Then I saw the cardboard boxes beside my bed. I had spent most of the night packing. not because Daniel had physically forced me out, but because I couldn't bear the thought of staying somewhere my own son had decided I no longer belonged. I sat on the edge of the bed and stared at the photograph on my nightstand. It showed Daniel at 8 years old, missing his 2 front teeth, holding a fishing rod almost as tall as he was. I touched the glass. "You broke my heart, sweetheart," I whispered. Then I packed the photograph. I didn't take everything. I left the furniture. I left the dishes Robert and I had bought during our first year of marriage. I left the dining table where Daniel had celebrated every birthday. I left the backyard swing, but I took the photographs. Those were mine. By noon, Daniel arrived. He stood in the doorway looking uncomfortable. "Mom, I've packed." His eyes moved toward the boxes. "You don't have to rush," I almost laughed. "Your wife told me yesterday that I should leave." He looked down. "She didn't mean it like that." "Yes, she did." Silence. I handed him a folder. "What is this?" "House documents, insurance information, utility records." "Everything you need." He stared at me. "You're really doing this?" I nodded. "I don't want to be somewhere I'm unwanted." His expression changed. For 1 second, I saw the little boy again. "Mom, I don't want to lose you." I looked directly into his eyes. "Then don't make me feel lost." He had no answer. Vanessa waited in the car. I could see her through the window. Daniel eventually left. I watched his car disappear down the street. Then I closed the front door. I thought I would collapse. Instead, I felt strangely calm. My sister Margaret lived in a small town about 40 minutes away. She had been asking me for years to move closer. When I called her, she didn't ask questions. She simply said, "Come home, Eleanor." I arrived at Margaret's house that evening. She hugged me before I even reached the porch. I cried in her arms. "I don't understand how he changed so much." Margaret rubbed my back. "He didn't change overnight. You just kept making excuses because you loved him." That sentence stayed with me. For the next few weeks, I lived in Margaret's spare room. I started looking for a small apartment. One afternoon, while I was filling out rental paperwork, my phone rang. It was Daniel. I stared at the screen. Margaret watched me. "You don't have to answer," I answered. "Hello." "Mom," his voice sounded tired. "What is it?" "I wanted to check on you." "I'm fine." "Are you angry?" I looked at the rain outside. "Yes." There was silence. "I understand." "No, Daniel." "You don't." "What do you mean?" "You didn't just ask me to move. You made me feel like my place in your life had become inconvenient." He breathed heavily. "Mom, Vanessa and I are trying to build a future." "I hope you do." "Then why can't you understand?" I closed my eyes. "Because I understand perfectly." He didn't speak. I continued. "I hope your future is everything you want." "Mom, I have to go." I ended the call. 2 months later, I rented a small cottage near a lake. It wasn't large, it wasn't fancy, but it was mine. I planted roses beside the front steps. I bought a blue rocking chair for the porch. Slowly, I began rebuilding my life. I volunteered at the local library. I joined a gardening group. I made friends. And for the first time in decades, I learned how to live without waiting for my son to call. But Daniel's life was changing too. I just didn't know it yet. Because while I was learning to stand on my own, Vanessa was making decisions that would eventually bring my son to his knees. For the first year after I left, Daniel rarely called. When he did, our conversations were polite. "How are you?" "Fine." "How's the cottage?" "Good." "How's work?" "Busy." Neither of us knew how to cross the distance between us. I refused to chase him. He was an adult. He had made his decision. Meanwhile, I built a routine. Every morning, I drank coffee on my porch. Every Thursday, I volunteered at the library. Every Saturday, I met Margaret for lunch. I began painting again, something I had loved when I was young but abandoned after marriage and motherhood. My life became peaceful. Then, one afternoon, Daniel appeared at my cottage. I was watering roses when I saw his car. My heart jumped. "Mom." "Daniel." He looked exhausted. His suit was wrinkled. There were dark circles under his eyes. "Can I come in?" I stepped aside. He entered and looked around. "You've done a lot with the place." "I like it," he nodded. Then he sat down. For several seconds he said nothing. Finally, he whispered, "Vanessa and I had a fight." I sat opposite him. "I'm sorry. She thinks I don't make enough money. That isn't my problem." "I know." He rubbed his forehead. "She wants us to buy a bigger house." "Can you afford one?" "Not comfortably." "Then don't." He gave me a tired smile. You always make everything sound simple. Sometimes it is. He looked at me. I miss talking to you. My heart softened, but I remembered the day he had told me to leave. I miss you too. He looked relieved. Then his phone rang. Vanessa, he answered. Where are you? I could hear her voice from across the room. I'm at Mom's. A pause. What are you doing there? Daniel looked embarrassed. Talking. Another pause, then he stood. I have to go. I nodded. At the door he turned. Mom, yes, I never stopped loving you. I smiled sadly. I never stopped loving you either. He left. I thought that visit meant something. Maybe it did. But the next month, Daniel became distant again. Vanessa had discovered that he had visited me. She accused him of choosing me over her. Daniel tried to explain that he simply wanted to see his mother. The argument grew. Then something worse happened. Daniel came home from work one Friday to find several boxes in the garage. What is this? He asked. Vanessa smiled. Your mother's things. He froze. Why are they here? She left them behind. You moved them from the house. I thought we'd clean everything out. Daniel opened a box. Inside were old photographs. He picked one up. It showed him at 10 years old sitting on his father's shoulders. His face changed. Why would you pack these? They're old. They're my memories. Vanessa rolled her eyes. You're being emotional. Daniel put the photograph down. No. What? These are important. For the first time, he felt something he hadn't allowed himself to feel in years. Regret. He remembered his mother standing in the doorway while he told her to leave. He remembered the look on her face. And suddenly he wondered whether he had made the biggest mistake of his life. But instead of confronting Vanessa, he buried the feeling. That was his mistake. Because sometimes regret doesn't disappear when you ignore it. It grows. And over the next 2 years, Daniel would discover that Vanessa had been hiding far more than her resentment toward his mother. 3 years passed. I heard from Daniel only occasionally. His marriage appeared perfect from the outside. Vanessa posted photographs from vacations. They attended weddings. They hosted dinners. Everyone thought they were happy. I knew better. Not because Daniel told me, because mothers notice things. His calls became shorter. His laughter disappeared. Whenever I asked how he was doing, he answered, fine. One evening, he called me unexpectedly. Mom. Yes. Do you still have Dad's old financial papers? I frowned. Some of them, why? Nothing. Daniel. He sighed. I found something strange. What? There are withdrawals from an account I didn't know existed. My heart sank. What account? Vanessa's name is on it. I stayed quiet. What kind of withdrawals? Large ones. How large? He hesitated. Over the last 18 months, almost $70,000. I sat down. Are you sure? Yes. What did she say? She said it was for business expenses. And do you believe her? Silence. No, I didn't tell him what to do. I had learned my lesson. He had to make his own choices. Daniel, I said gently, don't accuse anyone without knowing the truth. I know. Get the records. I will. 2 days later, he called again. His voice was different, cold. Mom, what happened? I found another account. My stomach tightened. Whose? Vanessa's. Personal. Yes. How much? Almost 100,000. I closed my eyes. Where did the money come from? That's what I'm trying to figure out. Then he said something that shocked me. Some of it came from our joint account. I didn't know what to say. He continued. She told me we were saving for a house. Maybe she was. No, his voice cracked. She transferred it to herself. Daniel, you need legal advice. I know. He hung up. For the first time in years, I worried about my son. Not because he had rejected me, because he was finally seeing what I had seen from the beginning. But I didn't want to be right. I wanted Vanessa to have changed. I wanted Daniel to have a happy marriage. Instead, the following months became increasingly difficult. Daniel discovered credit cards he had never authorized. Loans he didn't remember signing. Payments to companies he had never heard of. And then came the final discovery. Vanessa had been planning to leave him. She had already rented an apartment. She had purchased furniture. She had moved some of her personal belongings there. Daniel found the lease by accident. He confronted her. She didn't deny it. You were going to leave me. Yes. After everything, she stared at him, you stopped being useful to me. Those words destroyed whatever remained of their marriage. Daniel filed for divorce. The process was ugly. Vanessa fought over money. She blamed Daniel. She blamed me. She claimed I had poisoned him against her, but Daniel finally stopped listening. He lost money. He lost his marriage. He lost friendships. But the worst loss was the realization that he had spent years defending the wrong person while pushing away the one person who had loved him without asking for anything in return. When the divorce became final, Daniel drove to my cottage. It was late. I was asleep. He sat in his car outside for nearly an hour. He couldn't bring himself to knock. Because he knew something I didn't. He wasn't just coming to see his mother. He was coming to ask for forgiveness, and he wasn't sure he deserved it. The next morning, I found Daniel's car tracks in the driveway. I knew immediately that he had been there. I called him. He answered after several rings. "Mom, you came last night?" Silence. "Yes. Why didn't you knock?" I didn't know what to say. I looked toward the window. "You could have said hello," he laughed softly. "I was afraid." That surprised me. "Of me?" "No, then what?" "Of what I'd see in your eyes." I sat down. "Daniel, I'm not going to punish you." "You should." "No, I hurt you." "Yes, I chose Vanessa." "Yes, I made you leave your own home." "Yes." Each answer was calm. That seemed to hurt him more than anger would have. "I've been thinking about you every day," he said. "I've thought about you too." "Do you hate me?" I closed my eyes. "No, why not?" "Because you're my son." He started crying. I had heard Daniel cry only twice in his adult life. Once when his father died, and now, "I don't know how to fix this," he whispered. "You don't fix years with one conversation." "What do I do?" "Start with the truth. I'll tell you anything. Tell yourself first." He went silent. Then I heard him take a breath. "I was afraid of losing Vanessa. And you were willing to lose me." "Yes." "Why?" "I thought if I didn't choose her, she'd leave. And she did anyway." "Yes." I felt sorry for him, but I wasn't ready to take him back into my life as if nothing had happened. "Daniel, I love you." "I love you too. But love doesn't erase consequences." "I understand." "Do you?" "Yes." "Then don't ask me to forget." "I won't." That was the first honest conversation we'd had in years. After that, Daniel began visiting regularly. At first only for coffee, then lunch, then he helped me repair the fence. We talked about ordinary things. Books, weather, gardening, work. We avoided the past. Not because it didn't matter, because we were learning how to be around each other again. One afternoon, he asked me something unexpected. "Do you still have the house?" I looked at him. "No, I thought you did." "I sold it." His face fell. "When?" "2 years ago." "You never told me." "You never asked." He looked toward the lake. "I wish I could see it again." "You don't need to." "Why?" "Because it's gone." He looked at me. "What do you mean?" "I sold it because I realized a house isn't a home if you're afraid to live in it." He lowered his head. "I did that to you." "Yes." "I am so sorry." I placed my hand over his. That was the first time I touched him as my son in years. "Then be different now." "I will," and he was. Slowly, he started helping others. He volunteered at a food pantry. He stopped spending money to impress people. He learned to apologize without making excuses. But I still kept one part of my life private, a secret I had carried since leaving the old house. A letter. A letter Daniel had written to me when he was 17. He had forgotten it existed, but I hadn't. And one day, I would give it back to him, because those few handwritten lines would finally show him that the boy I raised had never truly disappeared. He had simply gotten lost. The letter had been written on lined notebook paper. Daniel was 17. His handwriting was terrible. The paper was folded 4 times. I had kept it for more than 20 years. It said, "Mom, I know I don't say it enough, but you're the best person I know. When I grow up, I'm going to take care of you the way you take care of me." I had read those words so many times that I knew them by heart. For years, I wondered whether the man Daniel became had forgotten the boy who wrote them. Now I knew he hadn't. He had simply made terrible choices. One Saturday morning, Daniel helped me plant tomatoes. He was covered in dirt. I laughed. "You always hated gardening." I was 17. "You hated vegetables too." I still do." "Then why are you planting them?" "Because you like them." I smiled. That small sentence meant more than he knew. After lunch, I brought out the letter. He stared at the paper. "What is that?" "Read it." He unfolded it. His face changed as he recognized his handwriting. "Oh my God. You remember?" "No." He read silently, then he looked at me. "I wrote this." "Yes, I was such a kid." "You were a good kid." he swallowed. I promised I'd take care of you. You did for a while. And then I stopped. Yes, he folded the letter carefully. I don't deserve this. You don't have to deserve it. He looked confused. Then why give it to me? Because I want you to remember who you were before you became afraid of disappointing everyone. Daniel looked down. I thought choosing Vanessa made me a good husband. You thought sacrificing me proved your loyalty to her. Yes, and it didn't. No, being a good husband doesn't require being a bad son. He nodded. That evening, Daniel stayed for dinner. We laughed more than we had in years. Afterward, he washed the dishes. I watched him from the doorway. For a moment, I could almost see Robert standing beside me. You'd be proud of him, I whispered. Daniel turned. Who are you talking to? Your father. He smiled. I miss him. So do I. We stood quietly. Then Daniel said, Mom, yes. Would you come with me to the old neighborhood sometime? I hesitated. Why? I want to see the house. I told you it's sold. I know. He looked nervous. I just want to stand outside. I agreed. A week later, we drove there. The house looked different. The porch had been painted. The oak tree was still standing. Daniel stepped out of the car. He stared at the windows. This was my whole childhood. Yes, I remember Dad building that porch. I remember. He walked toward the front yard, then he stopped. Mom, yes, I don't want this house. I looked at him. What? I thought I did. He looked back at me. I thought losing this house was losing my childhood. He smiled sadly. But standing here, I realize my childhood isn't the house. What is it? You. I couldn't speak. He hugged me. I held him tightly. For the first time, the pain inside me felt lighter. But just as we were leaving, a woman came out of the house. She was the new owner. She called toward us. Eleanor, I turned. Yes, she held up an envelope. I've been meaning to contact you. Why? She looked at Daniel. This was left in the attic by the previous owner. My heart stopped. What is it? She looked at Daniel. It's addressed to him. Daniel stared at the envelope. His name was written across the front, and neither of us knew who had left it there. We returned to my cottage with the envelope. Daniel sat at the kitchen table. He stared at his name. Do you know what this is? No. Who would leave something for me in the attic? I don't know. He opened it carefully. Inside was a single photograph. It showed Robert standing beside Daniel when he was about 12. On the back, Robert had written a date, and beneath it, never let my son forget what family means. Daniel's eyes filled with tears. There was another sheet of paper. This one was in Robert's handwriting. Daniel read it aloud. If you're reading this, something has happened that I hoped never would. I don't know what the future holds, but I want you to remember this. Your mother is the strongest person I have ever known. She has sacrificed more for you than you will ever understand. If one day you disagree with her, disagree with love, never punish her for loving you. Daniel stopped. He couldn't continue. I reached for the paper. He gave it to me. I read the rest. Robert had written the letter shortly before his death. He had apparently placed it inside an old toolbox in the attic. The previous owner must have found it and contacted us. Daniel wiped his face. I failed him. No, I did. Daniel, I did exactly what Dad warned me not to do. You made a mistake. A huge one. He looked at me. But you are correcting it. He nodded. Then he asked something I hadn't expected. Mom, why didn't you fight for me? I looked at him. What do you mean? When Vanessa pushed you away. Why didn't you fight? Because I didn't want you to have to choose again. He stared at me. I thought if I fought her, you'd choose her harder. He lowered his head. You were protecting me. I was trying to. And I thought you were abandoning me. I know. We sat in silence. Then Daniel said, I don't want to repeat my mistakes. You won't. How do you know? Because you finally understand them. He folded Robert's letter. Can I keep this? It's yours. He placed it inside his wallet. From that day forward, something changed. Daniel became more present. He called every morning. He visited twice a week. He stopped asking for forgiveness. Instead, he showed me he was sorry. That mattered. But one thing remained unresolved. The house. Daniel had begun asking whether I regretted selling it. I told him no, but he had an idea. Mom, I want to buy you a house. I laughed. Absolutely not. Why? Because I don't need you to fix my life. I know. Then don't try. I don't want to fix it. What do you want? I want to build something new with you. That silenced me. He showed me a small farmhouse outside town. It had a wide porch, a garden, a lake nearby. He wanted us to buy it together. I refused at first. Then he said something that changed my mind. "I'm not asking you to move in with me. I'm asking you to let me give you something without expecting anything in return." I agreed. But we didn't know that the farmhouse would become more than a new home. It would become the place where our broken family finally found its way back together. The farmhouse was old but beautiful. The porch wrapped around the front. There was a small barn behind it. The kitchen needed work. The garden was overgrown. Daniel loved it immediately. "This is it," I laughed. "You say that about every house." "No, this one feels different." "How?" He looked at me. "It feels like something we chose together." That was the difference. He wasn't deciding for me, he was asking me. We purchased it together. I moved in 3 months later. Daniel didn't move in. He lived 15 minutes away. That arrangement was important. We each had our own lives. But now we had a place where family could gather. Margaret helped me plant flowers. Daniel repaired the barn. He even built a small wooden bench near the garden. One evening, I found him sitting there. "You built this?" "Yes." "Why?" He smiled. "So we can sit here when we're old." I laughed. "I'm already old." "You know what I mean." I sat beside him. For a while, we watched the sunset. Then he said, "Mom." "Yes. Do you think I'll ever have another family?" "You mean marriage?" "Maybe. Don't rush." "I won't. Find someone who respects your heart." He smiled. "And my mother." "Especially your mother," we laughed. For several months, life was peaceful. Then Daniel met someone. Her name was Claire. She was a nurse. She was kind. She had been divorced once and had no interest in controlling anyone. The first time Daniel introduced us, Claire hugged me. "I've heard so much about you." I smiled. "Hopefully only the good things." She looked at Daniel. "He talks about you all the time." I glanced at my son. He looked embarrassed. Claire stayed for dinner. She helped clear the plates. She asked about Robert. She listened when I spoke. Most importantly, she never tried to compete with me. I liked her immediately, but I warned Daniel. "Don't marry someone because you're afraid to be alone." "I won't." "Don't choose someone because they make you feel important." "I won't." "Choose someone who makes you feel peaceful." He nodded. I think I found her. A year later, Daniel and Claire married. It was a small ceremony at the farmhouse. I sat in the front row. When Daniel saw me, his eyes filled with tears. After the ceremony, he hugged me. "Thank you for being here." "Where else would I be?" He smiled. For the first time in many years, I felt like I had my son back. Not the little boy, the man. The man who had finally learned that love wasn't a competition. That family wasn't about choosing one person over another. And that loyalty didn't require cruelty. But there was still one person whose name rarely came up. Vanessa. Daniel never spoke badly about her. He simply moved on. Then, 5 years after the divorce, an unexpected letter arrived. It wasn't from Vanessa. It was from her lawyer. The letter contained information about a financial dispute that had never been fully resolved. Daniel had been left responsible for a debt Vanessa had created during their marriage. The amount was enormous. He could lose the farmhouse. He could lose his savings. When he told me, I immediately offered to help. He refused. "No, Mom." "Why?" "Because I won't let you sacrifice your security for my mistake." I smiled. "You finally learned." "What?" "That sometimes letting someone help you isn't weakness." He looked at me. "But this time I need to solve it myself." I nodded, and for the first time I trusted him completely. Daniel spent months fighting the financial claim. He hired an attorney. He collected records. He proved that several debts had been created without his knowledge. The process was exhausting. There were nights when he called me frustrated. "I don't know how much longer I can do this." "You can." "What if we lose everything?" "Then you start again." "Like you did." "Exactly," he laughed. "You always have an answer." "No, I just have experience." Eventually, the court ruled in Daniel's favor. He wasn't responsible for the fraudulent debts. The relief on his face was enormous. That evening, he came to the farmhouse with Claire. We celebrated with pizza and sparkling cider. No expensive restaurant, no fancy party, just family. At one point, Daniel raised his glass. "To Mom." I shook my head. "To second chances." Everyone smiled. But after dinner, Daniel pulled me aside. "Mom, I need to tell you something." "What?" "I've been thinking about starting a foundation." "For what?" Single mothers. I stared at him. He continued. I know what it feels like to watch someone sacrifice everything for a child. I smiled. You want to help women like me? Yes. Why? Because maybe if someone had helped you, you wouldn't have had to struggle so much. I shook my head. I don't regret struggling for you. I know. But helping others is a good idea. He nodded. The foundation became a reality. Daniel donated part of his income. Claire volunteered. I helped with mentoring. We started small. A few families, then dozens, then hundreds. One summer, Daniel called me. His voice was shaking. Mom, what happened? Claire is pregnant. I froze. Then I screamed. Oh my goodness, he laughed. We're having a baby. I cried. Not because I was becoming a grandmother, because I knew what this meant. Daniel had once been the boy I raised alone. Now he was about to become a father. And I knew he would face moments when fear would tempt him to make the same mistakes his parents had made. I wanted to be there, but I also knew something important. I couldn't raise this child for him. I could only support him. The baby was born 6 months later, a little girl. They named her Lily. When Daniel placed Lily in my arms, I looked at her tiny face. Hello, sweetheart. Daniel stood beside me. She has your eyes. I laughed. Poor child. He smiled. Then he became quiet. Mom. Yes, I finally understand. What? Why you loved me so much. I looked at him. He continued. Because now I know what it feels like to love someone more than yourself. I kissed Lily's forehead. And now you know what responsibility feels like. He nodded. I'll never make you leave again. I looked at him. You don't need to promise that. Why? Because you're not that man anymore. He smiled. But that wasn't the last lesson Daniel would learn. Because when Lily turned 4, something happened that tested everything he had learned about forgiveness. Lily was 4 when she first asked about Vanessa. She had seen an old photograph. Daddy, who's that? Daniel froze. That was someone from a long time ago. Was she your friend? No. Did Grandma know her? I looked at Daniel. He didn't know what to say. Finally, he answered honestly. She was my wife before Mommy. Lily looked confused. Why isn't she your wife now? Because sometimes adults discover they aren't good for each other. Did she make you sad? Daniel looked at me. Yes, Lily thought for a moment. Did Grandma make you happy? Daniel smiled. Always. That evening, Daniel called me. Mom, I don't want Lily growing up thinking people are disposable. She won't. How do I explain Vanessa without teaching her to hate her? Tell her the truth without bitterness. He nodded. That sounds hard. It is, but important. Yes. Over the years, Daniel did exactly that. He never insulted Vanessa. He never encouraged Lily to hate her. He simply explained that people can make harmful choices and we don't have to repeat them. Lily grew into a compassionate child. She loved visiting the farmhouse. She helped me in the garden. She called me Grandma Ellie. One summer, she planted sunflowers beside my porch. Those are for you. They're beautiful. They're tall like you. I laughed. I'm not tall. Yes, you are. Daniel watched from the porch. He looked happy. I had never seen him so peaceful. One evening, after Lily went to bed, Daniel and I sat outside. Mom, yes. Do you ever wish you'd fought harder for me? I thought carefully. No. Why? Because you had to find your way back yourself. He looked at the stars. I wish I'd found it sooner. So do I. I'm sorry. I know, he smiled. Then he said something that surprised me. I don't want Lily to remember me as the father who always worked. Then don't. What should I do? Be there, he nodded. That advice changed him. He reduced his hours. He spent more time with Claire and Lily. He stopped chasing promotions that required him to miss birthdays. He learned to say no. His life became smaller in some ways, but richer in others. The foundation grew. The farmhouse became a gathering place. Family dinners became a tradition. And every Thanksgiving, Daniel stood beside me before dinner. He would say, I'm grateful for second chances. Everyone knew why. Years after Vanessa had disappeared from our lives, we barely thought about her. Until one afternoon, I received a phone call. The caller was a social worker. She asked whether I knew a woman named Vanessa Cole. My heart stopped. Yes, she listed your son as an emergency contact years ago. Is she okay? There was a pause. She needs help. I looked toward the garden. For the first time in years, the past had knocked on our door. And this time, I didn't know whether opening it would bring healing or reopen every wound we had worked so hard to close. I called Daniel immediately. He arrived within 20 minutes. I told him everything. He sat silently. "Do you want to help her?" I asked. He looked at me. "I don't know. That is an honest answer. She hurt you." "Yes, she hurt me. Yes, she doesn't deserve to destroy what we've built." "No, but she may still need help," I nodded. "Then help her without bringing her back into your life." He thought about it. "That sounds cruel." "No, boundaries aren't cruelty." He contacted the social worker. We learned that Vanessa had lost her job. She had accumulated debt. She was living alone. She had very little support. Daniel agreed to help with temporary housing through a local program. He didn't meet her. He didn't give her money directly. He simply made sure she had access to resources. A week later, Vanessa sent him a letter. Daniel brought it to me. "I haven't opened it." "You don't have to. I want you to read it first." I shook my head. "No, why?" "Because it's yours." He opened it. He read silently, then he closed his eyes. "What does it say?" She apologized. "For everything." "Yes. Do you believe her?" "I don't know." He looked at the letter. "She said she was jealous of you." I said nothing. "She said she thought you controlled me." I sighed. "That was never my intention." "I know." "She said she hated how much I loved you." Daniel looked at me. "Why would someone hate that?" "Because she thought love was something you had to compete for." He nodded. "She finally understands she was wrong." "Maybe. Do you want to meet her?" I surprised myself. "No." "Why?" "Because forgiveness doesn't require proximity." He smiled. "You really learned that." "So did you." Daniel kept helping from a distance. Eventually, Vanessa moved to another state. We never saw her again. But something about that experience changed Daniel. He became less judgmental. He understood that people could make terrible decisions without being permanently defined by them. That didn't excuse what Vanessa had done, but it helped him let go of anger. Our family continued. Lily grew. Claire and Daniel had another child, a boy named Noah. The farmhouse became noisy. There were toys everywhere. The garden became a battlefield of soccer balls and muddy shoes. I loved every second. One evening, Daniel came to me with an envelope. "What now?" He smiled. "Something important." Inside was a deed. I stared at it. "What is this?" "The farmhouse." My heart stopped. "You're not giving me the house." "I am." "Daniel." "No," I looked at him. "I bought it with you because I wanted us to build something together. But now I want it to belong to you." "I don't need it." "I know." "Then why?" "Because you taught me that home isn't something you take from someone." He smiled. "It's something you give." I couldn't speak. I tore the deed in half. His eyes widened. "What are you doing?" "You're keeping the house." "But Mom, I don't want it." "You don't?" "No." I pointed toward the children playing outside. "I want memories." He smiled. "Then let's make them." That night we sat around the dinner table. For the first time I realized something. The house Daniel had once wanted to take from me had been replaced by a home he wanted me to share. And that was the greatest proof of change I could have received. But one final challenge was still ahead. Daniel was about to face a decision involving Lily that would force him to remember exactly what it felt like to be the child caught between adults. And this time, he would have to choose differently. Lily was 12 when she came home crying. Daniel was furious. "What happened?" "She had a fight with her best friend." Claire tried to calm him. "Daniel, give her space." But Daniel's instinct was to fix everything. He wanted answers. He wanted to call the other girl's parents. He wanted to make everything right immediately. I watched him. Then I said quietly, "Stop." He looked at me. "Mom, remember yourself." He froze. "What do you mean?" "You're trying to control a problem that isn't yours to solve." He sat down. Lily looked at him. "I don't need you to fix it, Dad." He took a breath. "What do you need?" "I need you to listen." That sentence hit him. He nodded. "Okay." He listened. No advice, no anger, no phone calls, just listening. Later that evening, he came to the porch. "I almost became the kind of parent I hated. You were afraid. I wanted to protect her." "I know. But protecting someone doesn't mean controlling everything around them." "No," he smiled. "You were right. I usually am." He laughed. Then he became serious. "Mom, when I was young, did you ever want to control who I became?" "Of course." He looked surprised. "Really? I wanted to protect you from every bad decision." "Why didn't you?" "Because eventually I realized you had to make some mistakes yourself." He nodded. "I wish I'd understood that when I married Vanessa." "So do I." He laughed. Our relationship had become different. We could finally talk about painful things without being destroyed by them. Years passed. Lily graduated high school. Noah became a mischievous teenager. Claire and Daniel grew older, and I reached my 70s. My hair became completely white, my knees complained about stairs, but my life was full. One evening, Daniel asked me to sit down. "I have something for you." He handed me a small wooden box. Inside was my old house key. I stared at it. "Where did you get this?" "I found it in one of Dad's old boxes." I held it in my palm. "I thought I'd lost this." "You didn't," he smiled. "I kept it because I thought one day I'd understand what it meant." "What does it mean now?" He looked at me. "It means you had a home before I understood what home was." I closed my fingers around the key. "Keep it." "No." "Why?" "Because I've spent enough years holding on to things that belong to the past." He shook his head. "I want you to have it." I smiled. "Thank you." Then he hugged me. For a long time, neither of us spoke. We didn't need to. We had finally reached the place neither of us thought possible. Peace. Not perfect, not without scars, but real. Then, several weeks later, Daniel came to the farmhouse with a set of keys. He smiled. "Mom, I bought something." I stared at him. "What did you do?" He handed me the keys. And when I saw the address attached to them, my heart stopped. The address was my old house. I stared at Daniel. "You bought it." He nodded. "Why?" "I know you don't want the old life back." "Then why buy it?" "Because I don't want the house to be a place of pain anymore." I couldn't speak. He continued. "I bought it from the current owner. Daniel, I want to turn it into something useful." "What?" "A second location for the foundation." I looked at him. He smiled. "We'll use the house to help single mothers transition into stable housing." I felt tears fill my eyes. "You want to turn our old home into a place that helps families?" "Yes." I walked toward him. He handed me the keys. "I want you to open the door." I shook my head. "No." "Why?" "Because this time you should." He looked at me. "Mom, you were the one who closed the door years ago." He understood. He took the keys. We drove there together. The house looked smaller than I remembered. The porch was still there. The oak tree had grown enormous. Daniel stood at the front door. He hesitated. "Are you ready?" I nodded. He unlocked it. The door opened. I stepped inside. The walls had been painted. The floors were new. But somehow I could still hear Daniel running through the hallway as a child. I could almost hear Robert laughing in the kitchen. Daniel stood beside me. "I thought this would hurt." "It does." "Do you want to leave?" "No." I walked into the kitchen. Then the living room, then the stairs. Every room carried a memory. But for the first time, those memories didn't own me. I owned them. Daniel followed. At the end of the hallway, we found an old mark on the wall. Daniel had written his height there at age 7. I touched it. He was so little. Daniel smiled. "I remember standing there. You cried because you thought you were short." "I was short." "You were 7. He laughed. Then he became quiet. "Mom." "Yes. Would you like to keep something here?" "What?" He pointed toward the front room. "We could make it a library." "For the families?" "Yes." I smiled. "A library sounds good." We renovated the house over the next year. The old bedroom became a counseling room, the dining room became a classroom, the garage became a donation center, and the living room became a library. I donated books. Claire organized health workshops. Daniel helped families find jobs and housing. The house that had once represented rejection became a place of welcome. At the opening ceremony, dozens of people gathered. Daniel stood beside me. A reporter asked him why he had purchased the property. He looked at me, then answered, "Because sometimes you can't change the past." He paused. "But you can decide what the past will mean." I smiled. After everyone left, Daniel and I stood alone in the old living room. He looked at me. "Do you think Dad would like this?" "Yes." "Do you think he'd forgive me?" I smiled. "He already did." "How do you know?" "Because he would have seen the man you became." Daniel hugged me. I held him. And in that moment, I realized something beautiful. My son had once chosen his wife over me. Years later, he had come back begging at my door. But he hadn't simply asked for forgiveness. He had spent years proving that he deserved it. And now, the home he once used to push me away had become a place where strangers could find a second chance. That was more than reconciliation. That was redemption. The box was old. The wood was cracked. The attorney said it had been found during renovations. Inside were photographs, receipts, and a sealed envelope. Daniel's name was written on it. He brought it to me. "Mom, I think you should be here when I open this." I nodded. We sat at the kitchen table. He opened the envelope. The letter was short. "Daniel, if you're reading this, then you're old enough to understand something I couldn't teach you when you were young. Your mother will always love you. That doesn't mean she will always agree with you. Don't confuse disagreement with rejection. And don't ever allow another person to make you choose between love and loyalty. A good marriage should make your family bigger, not smaller. Protect your wife. Protect your mother, protect your children, but most of all, protect your character. Because when everything else is gone, that is what remains. Love, Dad." Daniel couldn't speak, neither could I. He folded the letter. "I wish I'd read this 20 years ago. Maybe you weren't ready." He looked at me. "I am now." He put the letter beside Robert's photograph. Then he asked something unexpected. "Mom, would you come with me to the cemetery?" "Of course." We drove there that afternoon. Robert's grave was covered with fallen leaves. Daniel knelt. "I messed up, Dad." I stood behind him. "I hurt Mom." He placed the letter against the headstone, but I came back. His voice broke. "I hope that's enough." I put my hand on his shoulder. "It is." He stood. We stayed there for a long time. On the drive home, Daniel was quiet. Then he said, "I used to think forgiveness meant pretending something never happened. It doesn't. What does it mean? Remembering without allowing the pain to control you." He nodded. "I think I've forgiven myself. That matters. And Vanessa." I looked at him. "Do you forgive her?" He thought. "Yes." "Why?" "Because I don't want her living inside my head anymore." I smiled. "That is forgiveness." When we returned to the farmhouse, Lily was waiting. "Grandma," she ran toward me. "Dad said we were going somewhere." Daniel looked confused. "Where?" I smiled. "To dinner." He laughed. "We went to a little restaurant by the lake, nothing fancy, just family." At the table, Lily asked me something. "Grandma, what was Dad like when he was young?" I looked at Daniel. He groaned. "Please don't tell embarrassing stories." I smiled. "Oh, I have plenty." Everyone laughed. I told them about his missing teeth, his terrible haircut, his obsession with baseball, and the time he tried to cook breakfast and nearly burned the kitchen. Daniel laughed. And for the first time, he wasn't ashamed of his past. He was grateful for it, because every mistake had brought us here. That night when I returned home, I sat on the porch. The house was quiet. The lake was still. I looked at the old key Robert had left behind. I thought about my son, about Vanessa, about the years we lost, about the years we found. And I realized I no longer wished I could rewrite the past. The past had already given me something priceless, a son who finally understood the value of home. As the years passed, our family became larger. Lily went to college. Noah discovered a passion for music. Claire opened a small community health clinic. Daniel continued running the foundation. And I became the unofficial grandmother to half the families we helped. People came to the farmhouse for dinners, celebrations, and sometimes simply to sit on the porch and talk. I often thought about the woman I had been years earlier, the woman who packed boxes while her son stood silently beside his wife. I wondered what she would think if she could see this. She would probably cry. So would I. One evening, Daniel sat beside me. "Mom, yes, do you remember the day I asked you to leave? How could I forget? I remember your face." I looked at him. "I thought you hated me. I never hated you. I know that now." He looked toward the garden. "I've replayed that day 1,000 times. What would you change?" "Everything," I smiled. "You can't. I know. Then stop punishing yourself." He nodded. "I think I finally understand." "What?" "Regret is useful only if it teaches you something." I smiled. "You really have grown up." He laughed. "I'm 52. You were 50 when you finally grew up." We both laughed. Then he became serious. "Mom, I want to make sure the farmhouse stays in the family. You don't need to worry about that." "I do." "Why?" "Because I want Lily and Noah to know where their family found each other again." I smiled. "Then tell them." "I have." "Good." A few months later, Daniel organized a family gathering. Everyone came. There were cousins, friends, neighbors, foundation volunteers. At dinner, Daniel stood. "I want to say something." Everyone became quiet. He looked at me. "When I was younger, I thought being a man meant making hard choices." He paused. "I thought choosing my wife over my mother proved I was loyal." He looked at Claire. Claire taught me something different. Then he looked at me. My mother taught me something even more important. He took a breath. Real strength isn't choosing who to hurt. He smiled. It's learning how to love people without making them compete for your love. Everyone applauded. I wiped my eyes. Daniel sat beside me. Was that too much? I laughed. Very. Too dramatic? Very. I learned from you. I shook my head. That night after everyone left, Daniel stayed behind. We sat on the porch. The moon reflected across the lake. Mom, yes. Are you happy? I thought about it. Yes. Really? Yes. Even after everything? Because of everything. He looked confused. I continued. If you hadn't broken my heart, I might never have discovered how strong I was. He smiled. And if I hadn't lost you, you might never have understood how much you needed me. He nodded. We sat quietly. Then he reached into his pocket. He pulled out the old letter from when he was 17. I still carry it. You do? Yes. Why? Because when I forget who I want to be, I read it. I smiled. That little boy had good intentions. He did. And the man finally caught up with him. Daniel laughed. I hope so. Then he hugged me. And I realized that sometimes the happiest endings aren't about getting back what you lost. They're about building something better than what you had before. But one final surprise was waiting for me. The next morning, Daniel arrived at the farmhouse with a set of keys. He smiled. Mom, I bought something. I stared at him. What did you do? He handed me the keys. And when I saw the address attached to them, my heart stopped. The address was my old house. I stared at Daniel. You bought it. He nodded. Why? I know you don't want the old life back. Then why buy it? Because I don't want the house to be a place of pain anymore. I couldn't speak. He continued. I bought it from the current owner. Daniel, I want to turn it into something useful. What? A second location for the foundation. I looked at him. He smiled. We'll use the house to help single mothers transition into stable housing. I felt tears fill my eyes. You want to turn our old home into a place that helps families? Yes. I walked toward him. He handed me the keys. I want you to open the door. I shook my head. No. Why? Because this time you should. He looked at me. Mom, you were the one who closed the door years ago. He understood. He took the keys. We drove there together. The house looked smaller than I remembered. The porch was still there. The oak tree had grown enormous. Daniel stood at the front door. He hesitated. Are you ready? I nodded. He unlocked it. The door opened. I stepped inside. The walls had been painted. The floors were new, but somehow I could still hear Daniel running through the hallway as a child. I could almost hear Robert laughing in the kitchen. Daniel stood beside me. I thought this would hurt. It does. Do you want to leave? No. I walked into the kitchen, then the living room. Then the stairs. Every room carried a memory, but for the first time, those memories didn't own me. I owned them. Daniel followed. At the end of the hallway, we found an old mark on the wall. Daniel had written his height there at age 7. I touched it. He was so little. Daniel smiled. I remember standing there. You cried because you thought you were short. I was short. You were 7. He laughed. Then he became quiet. Mom, yes. Would you like to keep something here? What? He pointed toward the front room. We could make it a library. For the families? Yes, I smiled. A library sounds good. We renovated the house over the next year. The old bedroom became a counseling room. The dining room became a classroom. The garage became a donation center, and the living room became a library. I donated books. Claire organized health workshops. Daniel helped families find jobs and housing. The house that had once represented rejection became a place of welcome. At the opening ceremony, dozens of people gathered. Daniel stood beside me. A reporter asked him why he had purchased the property. He looked at me, then answered, "Because sometimes you can't change the past." He paused. "But you can decide what the past will mean." I smiled. After everyone left, Daniel and I stood alone in the old living room. He looked at me. "Do you think Dad would like this?" "Yes." "Do you think he'd forgive me?" I smiled. "He already did." "How do you know?" "Because he would have seen the man you became." Daniel hugged me. I held him. And in that moment, I realized something beautiful. My son had once chosen his wife over me. Years later, he had come back begging at my door, but he hadn't simply asked for forgiveness. He had spent years proving that he deserved it. And now, the home he once used to push me away had become a place where strangers could find a second chance. That was more than reconciliation. That was redemption. A year after the foundation opened the house, Daniel asked me to come there alone. Why? I want to show you something. When I arrived, the building was quiet. He led me into the old living room. On the wall was a photograph. It showed me Daniel, Claire, Lily, and Noah standing together. Underneath it was a plaque. It read, "Family isn't defined by who stays when life is easy. It is defined by who learns how to love better after making mistakes." I looked at Daniel. "You wrote this." "Yes, you're getting sentimental. I learned from the best." I smiled. Then he took my hand. "Mom, there's something I've never said properly. You've said many things. Not this." He took a breath. "When I asked you to leave, I thought I was choosing my future." He looked into my eyes. "I didn't realize I was throwing away part of my past." I listened. "And when I lost my marriage, I thought I had lost everything." He smiled. "But then you opened the door." "I didn't do much. You did everything." "No, yes." He squeezed my hand. "You showed me that forgiveness isn't permission to hurt someone again." I nodded. "You taught me that," he continued. "You showed me that people can be disappointed in you and still believe you can become better." My eyes filled with tears. "You showed me that being a good son isn't about paying back everything your mother sacrificed." He smiled. "It's about making sure her sacrifices meant something." I hugged him. For a long time we stood there. Then he whispered, "Thank you for waiting." I pulled away. "I didn't wait." He looked confused. "I lived." He smiled. "That sounds like you. I didn't put my life on hold for you." "I know. I built a new one, and you let me become part of it." "Yes," he nodded. "That saved me." "No, what? You saved yourself." He looked at me. "I just left the porch light on." He laughed through his tears. "That might be the nicest thing anyone has ever said to me." We left the building together. Outside, Lily was waiting with Noah. "Grandma," she hugged me. "Dad said we were going somewhere." Daniel looked confused. "Where?" I smiled. "To dinner," he laughed. "We went to a little restaurant by the lake, nothing fancy, just family." At the table, Lily asked me something. "Grandma, what was Dad like when he was young?" I looked at Daniel. He groaned. "Please don't tell embarrassing stories." I smiled. "Oh, I have plenty." Everyone laughed. I told them about his missing teeth, his terrible haircut, his obsession with baseball, and the time he tried to cook breakfast and nearly burned the kitchen. Daniel laughed, and for the first time he wasn't ashamed of his past. He was grateful for it, because every mistake had brought us here. That night, when I returned home, I sat on the porch. The house was quiet. The lake was still. I looked at the old key Robert had left behind. I thought about my son, about Vanessa, about the years we lost, about the years we found, and I realized I no longer wished I could rewrite the past. The past had already given me something priceless, a son who finally understood the value of home. My 75th birthday was approaching. I didn't want a party. Daniel disagreed. "You're getting one." "No, yes, no, yes, you're stubborn." "I learned from you." He organized everything anyway. The farmhouse was decorated with flowers. Friends arrived. Foundation families came. Margaret brought an enormous cake. Lily and Noah made a video. Then Daniel stood up. "I have one more thing," I sighed. "What now?" He handed me a small box. Inside was a bracelet. It had a simple inscription, "Always home." I looked at him. "Daniel, I know jewelry isn't your thing. It's beautiful. I wanted something that meant what you mean to me." I hugged him. He whispered, "You were my home before I understood what home meant." I cried. Everyone applauded. Later that evening, after the guests left, Daniel and I sat outside. "You've given me enough gifts." "I don't think so." "What else could you possibly give me?" He looked toward the house. "My promise." "What promise?" "That I'll never allow my children to believe they have to choose between people they love." I nodded. "Good. And if they make mistakes, let them learn. And if they hurt someone, teach them to apologize. And if someone hurts them, teach them boundaries." He smiled. "You really have an answer for everything?" "No, what don't you have an answer for?" "What happens after we die?" He became quiet. "I don't like thinking about that." "Neither do I. I want you around forever." "I don't think that's how life works." He looked at me. "Then we'll make the time count." I smiled. "That is the right answer." We sat there until midnight. The next morning, Daniel called. "Mom, yes, I forgot something." "What?" "Happy birthday," I laughed. "You were here until midnight." "I know. You already said it." "I know. Then why call?" "I wanted to say it again." I smiled. "Thank you." He paused. "Mom, yes, I love you." "I love you too." He hung up. I sat quietly. There are moments in life when everything becomes still. You stop thinking about money, houses, arguments, and regrets. You think only about the people who matter. That morning, I realized my greatest wealth wasn't the farmhouse. It wasn't the foundation. It wasn't anything I could leave in a will. It was the fact that my son had learned how to love without conditions, and he was teaching that lesson to his children. That was enough. Years later, when I became older and slower, Daniel started visiting every morning. He brought coffee. He checked the heating. He fixed whatever needed fixing. Sometimes he didn't say much. He would just sit beside me. One morning I looked at him. "You know something." "What?" "You're taking care of me." He smiled. "I promised." "When?" "A long time ago." I looked at him. "When you were 17." He nodded. "I finally kept my promise." I laughed. "You took long enough." He smiled. "I'm sorry." "I know." Then I looked at him carefully. "You're a good man." His eyes filled with tears. "Because of you." "No, Mom, because you chose to become one." He hugged me, and I knew that if my life ended tomorrow, I would have no unfinished conversation with my son. We had said everything. We had forgiven everything. We had rebuilt everything, but life had one final gift waiting. And it came in the form of a letter from someone I never expected to hear from again. The letter arrived without warning. The handwriting was unfamiliar. It was from Vanessa. Daniel opened it at the farmhouse. He read it quietly. Then he looked at me. "She wants to apologize to you." I took a breath. "What does she say?" "She says she knows she doesn't deserve forgiveness." I nodded. "She says she finally understands what she did." I remained silent. "She says she has built a different life." "That is good." "She doesn't ask us to contact her." "That is better." Daniel folded the letter. "Do you want to read it?" I thought about it. Then I shook my head. "No." He looked surprised. "Why?" "Because I don't need her apology to know that I've healed." He nodded. "Should I respond?" He thought for a moment. "I think I'll write one sentence." "What?" "I hope you have found peace." I smiled. "That is enough." He wrote it. He didn't ask for anything in return. He didn't reopen the past. He simply closed the door gently. Afterward, we sat outside. "I thought I'd feel something bigger," he said. "You did." "What?" "Peace." He nodded. "I think you're right." We watched the sunset. Then he said, "Mom." "Yes." "Do you remember when I came to your door years ago?" "Yes." "I was terrified." "I know. I thought you were going to slam it in my face." "I thought about it." He laughed. "You did?" "For about 3 seconds." "Then why didn't you?" I looked at him. "Because you were crying." He smiled. "I was. And because I could see you were finally telling the truth." He nodded. "I was." That mattered. He looked at the sunset. "I'll never forget that night. Neither will I. Do you know what I learned?" "What?" "You can come home after making a terrible mistake." I smiled. But, but home doesn't mean the past disappears." "Exactly. It means someone gives you a chance to build something better." I squeezed his hand. "That is forgiveness." He leaned back. "I wish everyone could experience that. Not everyone gets a second chance." "No, but everyone can become worthy of one." He smiled. The sun disappeared. The porch lights came on. For a moment, I remembered the night I had packed my boxes. I remembered the fear, the loneliness, and the heartbreak. Then I looked at Daniel, and I realized something. The woman who left that old house was not the same woman sitting here, and the son who told her to leave was not the same man sitting beside her. We had both changed. We had both grown. We had both forgiven. And perhaps that was the real happy ending. Not that nothing bad had happened, but that something beautiful had grown from it. Daniel stood. "Come inside." "Why?" "It's getting cold." I smiled. "Since when do you worry about me being cold?" "Since I became your son again." I laughed. He held out his hand. I took it. Together we walked into the farmhouse. The door closed behind us. Not as a door separating us, as a door protecting the home we had built. And for the first time in decades, I knew with complete certainty. My son had finally come home. I am 80 now. My hair is white. My hands are wrinkled. My steps are slower. But every morning when I wake up, I hear birds outside my window. Sometimes I hear my grandchildren laughing downstairs. Sometimes I hear Daniel arguing with the coffee machine. And every time I hear his voice, I remember the day he told me to leave. It feels like another lifetime. People often ask me whether I regret what happened. I don't. Not because it didn't hurt. It did. There were years when I cried alone. Years when I wondered whether my son would ever call. Years when I thought the family we had built was gone forever. But I learned something important. Sometimes life takes something away because it wants you to discover something you couldn't see while holding on to it. When I left Daniel's house, I discovered myself. When Daniel lost his marriage, he discovered the truth. When we found each other again, we discovered forgiveness. And when we built the foundation, we discovered that our pain could help other people. That was the gift hidden inside our worst years. Today, the old house is still standing. It no longer belongs to one family. It belongs to everyone who needs a place to begin again. There are children reading books in the living room, mothers attending classes in the dining room, families sitting in the garden. Sometimes I visit. Daniel always comes with me. One afternoon, Lily walked beside me. "Grandma." "Yes." "Did Dad really hurt you when he was younger?" I looked at her. "Yes." "Were you angry?" "Yes." "Did you stop loving him?" I smiled. "Never," she thought about it. "Why?" "Because love and disappointment can exist at the same time." She nodded. "That's complicated." "It is." "Would you forgive me if I hurt you?" I looked at her. "I would forgive you. Always." "Forgiveness doesn't mean there are no consequences." She smiled. "I understand." Daniel was listening from behind us. He smiled. I realized he had learned the same lesson. That evening, we had dinner at the farmhouse. Everyone was there: Claire, Lily, Noah, Margaret, friends. Neighbors, people from the foundation. Daniel stood at the table. He lifted his glass. "To Mom." I shook my head. "Again." Everyone laughed. Daniel smiled. "When I was younger, I thought I had to choose between my wife and my mother." He looked at Claire. "I was wrong." He looked at me. "Love isn't a limited resource." He raised his glass. "There's enough room for everyone when people choose respect instead of competition." Everyone raised their glasses. I looked around the table. This was my family, not perfect, not untouched by pain, but together. Daniel came around the table and kissed my forehead. "I love you, Mom." "I love you too," he whispered. "Thank you for opening the door." I smiled. "You knocked." He laughed. "I did." "And you kept knocking." "Yes." "That mattered." He hugged me. I closed my eyes. For years, I thought the happiest ending would be hearing my son say he was sorry. I was wrong. The happiest ending was watching him become the kind of man who understood why he needed to apologize. It was watching him raise children who never had to choose between the people they loved. It was seeing the house that once broke my heart become a place where families found hope. And it was waking up every morning knowing that my son wasn't just back in my life. He was truly home. So if you ever find yourself standing outside a door you once thought would never open again, remember this. Sometimes the person on the other side isn't the only one who needs to change. Sometimes you do too. Forgiveness doesn't erase the past. It simply refuses to let the past decide the future. My son chose his wife over me. Years later, he came begging at my door. I opened it, not because I had forgotten, because I had forgiven. And together, we built something better than what we had lost. We built a home, a real one, a home made of patience, honesty, second chances, and love. And that, after everything, was the happiest ending I could have ever asked for. If you like this story, please like this video, subscribe to the channel, and share your impressions of this story in the comments. To listen to the next story, click on the box on the left. Thank you for watching.